live streaming tonight. In fact, if you are watching this via the Facebook live stream and BayNet page, please share it. My name is Teresa Humes, and I serve as the Government Affairs Director for the Southern Maryland Association of Realtors. I want to thank our partners, the BayNet.com, the Southern Maryland Association of Realtors, and tonight's sponsor, the Waldorf JCs, for coming together to provide a true public forum for all of Charles County voters. We are thankful for those who are able to donate non-perishable food items to help the county food pantries and benefit those in need. We're currently at about 115 in the room. That's a great turnout for something we threw together in the last few weeks. I thank you all for being here. Every candidate was invited multiple times to participate in our forum tonight. There have been several messages sent and in-person discussions with the candidates to secure their attendance. At the time of creating this event, we were made aware Commissioner Davis was traveling in the region tonight, and we'd like to wish her a happy birthday. Having given all the candidates the same length of time and notice, we are disappointed any candidate may have willingly chosen not to participate. Some housekeeping notes to begin the evening. A yellow card will be held by our timer who's sitting in the front row of the center at the 30-second remaining mark. When your speaking time is up, there will be a red card held up. For those of us who have played sports, it's kind of a small advantage this method. Every candidate will be allowed both opening and closing remarks. Rebuttals are up to the moderator's discretion. The audience is asked to be respectful of all answers and not to call out. When the idea of the community forum with questions submitted by the public originated in August, and we first reached out to all the candidates, the idea of who was best to moderate this forum was pretty easy. Who could know this district better, the community better, than one of its most respected leaders? Former president of the Charles County Chamber of Commerce, the former president of the Waldorf JCs, currently the vice chair of the House Economic Matters Committee and chair of the Southern Maryland State Delegation. Thank you for your continued service to our community by being here tonight. I am proud to turn the floor over to the Honorable Charles.
Thank you, Teresa, and to the members of SMAR and to the BayNet for providing another opportunity for the members of our community to get to know the candidates that are going to be on the ballot again, for some of them, in just another couple of weeks. Question for you, who's the happiest person in the room? And that's not because my husband went in the kitchen and made me a cup of coffee. No, it's a real pleasure to be here. Teresa did not say this, I don't think, but if you have a cell phone, would you please make sure it's on silent. We're very happy that you're all here. It's a great turnout. I know that you are here to learn more about these individuals on my right. And we've got questions. Please know that when I was asked to moderate, the first thing I said was, I do not want to see the questions until that evening. So they're here, they're in front of me. You'll have to bear with me while I kind of take a moment to look at them, because I have not seen these questions at all. I would also like to ask you to be really good listeners. You know, it's very important that we hear from the candidates their answers, and we don't have to applaud and shout and do all of that. We know that you're supporting many of the individuals here in the front of the room, but tonight is about learning. So with no further ado, we're going to provide an opportunity for each of the candidates to tell you a little something about themselves. We're going to begin to my right with Mr. Bill Dobson, who is a candidate for the Senate.
Excuse me.
And see, you always learn something as a candidate. There you go. Mike 101. We've got it covered.
We got it covered.
Thank you, Bill.
All right, well, thank you very much, everybody. I'm honored to be here today. I thank Samar for hosting this, along with the BayNet. It's an honor to have Steve moderator Jameson. And I thank everybody for coming out tonight. This is an important election. And I truly believe this year will be a waterstone moment in Maryland's history as far as our governor and the other candidates down the line. So it's important that we come out and we get to know these candidates. This has been a long campaign for me. It's 18 months. And I've gotten to know many of you over the 18 months. You know, when you start a campaign, you think you know your platform and you feel comfortable with what you're going to say. But as you get out there and you door knock and you speak to literally thousands of residents, over that time, some things become clear to you that weren't clear to you when you started. And so I want you to know that over the last 18 months, I've met many of you, I've heard your concerns over and over again. I know that traffic is the #1 issue in Charles County. I know that, you know, many of you get up in the morning and you're stuck, hour and a half, 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours on the way home at night. I know that the school issue, teachers, our teachers, we're not able to attract new teachers and we're not able to retain teachers because we're not paying our teachers enough. I've heard over and over again the different problems that face Charles County. But I want to tell you something. Together with well-read, well-thought-out, well-planned candidates, we can really address Charles County next legislative session. I'm disappointed that my opponent's not here. But there'll be a lot said tonight, and I think you'll have a clear understanding of my position. His positions, you'll have to guess. My positions, you'll know tonight when you leave. Thank you very much for attending. I appreciate it, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Dotson. We will now hear from Delegate C.T. Wilson. Mr. Wilson.
I was asked by several people in the last few days why I came here today. Democrats outnumber Republicans 2-1. All I can do is lose. I have nothing to gain. And my response was because you don't come to these things to gain anything. I can give everybody here 10 reasons not to vote for me, but I want you to understand who you're talking to. I want people to be informed. Because right now, I've watched the county. We're a very divided county. By someone's choice. And I watched in the primary, we divided ourselves by race. And now we're dividing ourselves by party. Hoping people will vote blindly, they will stay uninformed, but I'm not going to hide behind my party. I don't need to. I'm not here to defend my party, because my party doesn't define me. I do. In fact, if you can remember back in the day, it was people that ran politics, not parties. And we need to go back to that. I'm tired of this infighting. I'm tired of people are called the Bloods and the Crips. If you're wearing red and I'm wearing blue, we start shooting before we find out who each other are, and that's disappointing. We are much better than that. And we need to do better. I live here. My wife has a business here. My children go to school right here in Charles County Public Schools. Everything that we vote on, I have to deal with. I need to understand because it impacts me directly, day in and day out. Party lines are meaningless. Believe me. If you look at my record, please Google my name. That's all I ask you to do. You will see somebody who has fought hard on both sides. I have stood with our governor as I have stood with my party to protect victims, to protect schools, protect our environment, our veterans. I ask that we just be informed. I used to always hear the great thing about how, you know, it's so important to vote. No, it's important to vote knowingly. Know your people. Don't check blindly down either side. Know, be informed, do our county a greater service. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Sally. I appreciate that. And thank you all very much for attending this event this evening. I thank Southern Maryland Association of Realtors and BANET for coordinating this. I know what goes into coordinating events such as this. I'm Wayne Woodruff, and I live in La Plata. I've been in Charles County for 25 years. Some of you I know, some of you I had missed for a while, and I've had a couple people in the past couple of days come up to me and say, do I recognize you? One happened to be a flower girl at my wedding, and the other one someone else I worked for, or worked with. Who am I? I'm in commercial real estate, been in commercial real estate for 30 years, so I feel right at home right now sitting next to these three gentlemen. I've been very versed on negotiating with associations such as the National Education Association, Cornell University, Franklin Covey, a lot of major firms, and making sure that they were taken care of. In other words, I've worked on properties from Capitol Hill to Georgetown to Falls Church to Crofton for the landlord. I've also been a tenant rep for the past 30 years, where I've looked at and helped people understand the dynamics of an office lease, an industrial lease, or a retail lease. But enough of that. I also am a small business person. In addition to that, as we all know what happened in 2009, maybe number 8 in one market at one point, next thing you know, the market's going very badly. Well, when I became a mom 25 years ago, I researched resume writing. Today, I sit down with a lot of people right here in Charles County. In fact, some of them may even be here in the audience tonight. And I help them get jobs. I'm all about jobs. We need economic development here in Charles County. Our county commissioners over the past 4 years have talked about having better economic development. So the children that we send to our schools here, we're preparing them for jobs. And then they get done, and where do they go? They end up over at the dollar store over here in Indian Head or wherever else. No, we can do that much better than that. We have a Maryland airport that I've advocated for the past 4.5 years. That could be a great economic engine for this county, just like for St. Mary's has theirs. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. Mr. Jim Crawford.
Hi, I'm Jim Crawford. I'm a candidate for delegate. Some of you may know me from running before. Sally said she was the happiest person in the room. Well, I'm the second happiest because I'm not running against her this time. But seriously, many of you know the name Crawford's in the county. My brother's running for commissioner. My son Mark is on the Board of Education elected. And my wife Jean and I have lived in the county for 40 years. We're 2 children here. 2 minutes, not a very long time to give you my job application resume. But suffice to say that I'm a successful businessman. I'm retired now, although I still run an antique business. And what we need in Annapolis is less lawyers, less professional bureaucrats, less educators, and more business people. Governor Hogan has proved that a good business person in that capacity can make things happen and make our state a whole lot better. And I intend to do the same thing. Now, as part of my resume, I've done a lot of things in the county over the years, been very actively involved in several different things. I've been president of the Tri-County Youth Services Bureau. I've had the first certified organic farm in Southern Maryland. Additionally, I've worked in habitat houses and built handicap ramps and done all kinds of things. I was a charter organizer of the Charles County United Way, as a matter of fact. So I've done a lot of things. I'm also a longtime soccer and volleyball referee. So I recognize yellow and red cards, and I don't intend to get one tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you to all of our candidates for sharing a little bit more about yourself with each and every one of us. So you know the deal with the red and yellow cards. You understand that if there is someone you are running against that you would like to rebut, you may make that request. I am sure you all are going to be such good candidates here at this head table, and we won't have the need for that, because this evening is just about seeing who you are and what you are about. If you need some help into how to handle it, I'd say serve up a little bit of humanity and make sure you keep in control. So we have a number of questions here. Teresa, I'm probably going to skip around a little since we don't have as many candidates to ask these questions of. But the first one is kind of a general question. This midterm election will bring a majority of new county commissioners to Charles County, and also the potential to shake up the current Southern Maryland delegation as well. Being a successful elected representative seems also to require strong interpersonal relationships and collaboration. If elected, what do you see as your role in local county decisions and with the commissioners? And then also, secondly, how will you work within the state delegation and other elected officials to help Charles County voters benefit on future legislative decisions? If you need me to repeat any of that, I think we just want to know, are you going to work well together? So let us begin with Jim. Mr. Crawford.
Well, thank you. You know, one of my earlier campaign slogans that I coined years ago when I ran delegate before was, I always put people and principles over party and politics. And I think I've proven that over the years, and this gives me an edge up. I've actually worked on a number of legislative pieces over the years, and in terms of what we can do what I can do as a delegate to help Charles County, Governor Hogan is a strong governor in terms of getting a lot of things done. Unfortunately, we only have one party represented from our county. I think it would be extremely influential to have some diversity among politicians in our county. And I want to be a champion for Charles County in a number of things: transportation, education, strong job advocacy, and getting economic development in the county. And I think from the state level, we have an awful lot of influence with the commissioners and work together with them, regardless of party, and work across party lines easily enough to be a champion in Annapolis for our county. And I know enough people from the state, I think, can be effective at that.
Actually, Sally, it reminds me of when you and Matt and others came down for the Chamber's legislative breakfast every March, and there were issues that were locally regarding the transfer tax, or maybe it was the Watershed Conservation District, or maybe it was transportation, maybe it was the Harry Nice Bridge, okay? And you all indicated to us there was only so much that you could do at a state level to facilitate with some of those decision-making processes. And so yet on one afternoon, I was over in Accokeek, and I happened to look at a post that someone put on Facebook that Governor Hogan was going to be down at the Harry Nice Bridge. He got very involved in that day. I went down there, and Bill was down there, and he made the statement that day: no more decisions behind closed doors. We're going to be transparent, and this is moving forward. Okay, and forward it's moving. So, you know, we understood at the Chamber at the breakfasts when you folks would say, well, you know, we really think there's no reason to have the WCD, there's really no reason to have the transfer tax, but unfortunately, decisions were made here on a local level much differently. I am a relationship builder. I look to build relationships. I have very good relationships with a lot of the people that are running right now, and hope to continue that. Thank you.
I'll just say this. I was a former non-commissioned officer of the United States Army. One of the first things we learned was to adapt and overcome. That means regardless of the situation, the makeup of the delegation once this election is over, if I'm re-elected, you adapt to who's in the environment. There are people here, one of them ran against me 8 years ago and tried to run me out of this county, that I work very well with Bud, even because it's not about, he knows half the time we don't agree. But that's not the point, because I am always honest. If you ask my opinion, you will get my answer. Not the party's answer, not what you want to hear. Because my goal is if I'm honest and you're honest, we can find that middle ground. And Mr. Collins-Bailey told me this years ago, Republicans and Democrats, you know what? Let's identify all the things we agree on and solve those problems. We can always get back to fighting. And that's all we need to do, is realize we do have a lot more in common than we think. We're allowing the lunatic fringe on one side and the lunatic fringe on the other side to tell us we can't see the eye to eye on anything. And if some of y'all believe that, don't vote for me, because I don't need your vote. Because I'm not here for you. I'm here for the 90% that are moderate, that know we all need to have a voice. We might not always agree, but we can move this country forward. That's the leadership that I will continue to bring. I've set the example for 8 years and will continue to. Thank you.
He doesn't get to bring me up like that. I never tried to bring him out of the county, but I have tried to bring him around, and he's a great delegate for us. He stood up for us.
I believe I have the ability to silence people. Mr. Dodson.
Well, thank you very much. As someone who's built a small business and made it into a national company, leaders lead, leaders collaborate. And CT's right. We constantly see people all the way on the left or all the way on the right that get all the media and all the attention. But fixing problems means that both sides work together. Listen, traffic's the #1 issue. We all agree on that. So let's find collaborative ways to work together. We have a town called Indian Head. Indian Head is boarded up. It can be a thriving economic engine if we work together at the state level to bring enterprise zones, hub zones, state credits, and work together. I'll gladly work with the new commissioners. And CT's right. You have to always be willing to work with whoever is in charge. You never know 100% on election day who is going to win and who's going to lose. But that next morning you wake up and the winners of who you're going to collaborate with. I'm excited about the new commissioners coming in because I think this new group that's coming in has a better vision for economic development than the last group. We can do real good things in Charles County. We can improve traffic. We can improve economic development. We can put high-paying jobs here so everyone's not driving out of the county. We can get people working in Indian Head and staying here. We can get overpasses, bypasses. We can do things. But we're going to always do it together. If you want to be an island, you'll never get anything done. But if you want to be a collaborator, you'll find ways to get it done. I like how it's going. You know, I told Sally before this was over, Ms. Jameson, just in this election how much we've collaborated. Mac Milton's been a tremendous resource for me, resource. C.T. Wilson has picked up the phone every time I call. It doesn't have to be this way. We can work together.
Thank you for those answers. It's very interesting as a currently seated delegate, soon to be retired delegate, for me to hear their answers. I think they were pretty much right on target. You know, folks, when you decide to run and put yourself out there and you accomplish that goal, you think you're going to go to Annapolis in this case, and you are going to conquer the world.
Let's answer the question.
Understand that you are only one of either 141 in the House or 47 in the Senate. So this question about collaboration is really an important one. We will now move on to our next question. We understand that Charles County is the highest taxed county in Maryland. We need more money for education and for our law enforcement. Do you believe our tax structure is harming the quality of life in Charles County? And if so, what can you do to change the funding methods currently in place to better fund education and law enforcement personnel? So I'm interpreting this as perhaps a two-part answer. How could you assist at the county level with decisions? How can you work at the state level? So, CT, Delegate Wilson, we'll begin with you on this one.
Well, to the best of my memory, I will start with the last one first. As far as funding education, one of the things I know I've always had a problem with is the way Maryland they build their schools. We always wait till they're at 120% capacity, and that's when we start figuring out when we're going to build the next school. And I mean, I guess it's a neat idea, but I've got children in school right now. And if they're in an overcrowded school, it's great to know in 4 years we'll have a new school, but my children will be punished. I think it's problematic that we do this. I put in a bill in last year, it didn't really go anywhere, that would help each of the counties match some funds for teachers so we can give higher salaries, because we can't even compete with St. Mary's and Calvert, more or less, you know, Virginia, and to get some matching assistance from our state government, because we set the government up for a reason like this, guys. You know, as delegates, I don't get to tell the school board how to do their business. But I can assist them. I can't tell them how much to pay their people. So it becomes very difficult. I know other states have a school board that has taxing authority. I nobody wants to hear that word, but sometimes it would be nice to know that if your taxes are being raised by the school board, they're at least going to the schools. There are a multitude of things we can do. I understand at some point our county will have to have that individual autonomy in the right to set taxes and things of that nature. And I'm all for that once we get a system in place that doesn't cost us more money. Because I don't want to tax this anymore. Like, again, I live here, my property taxes are ridiculous, my home value isn't that great. But I do hope that at some point in the future we can have that individual autonomous county that doesn't go to the state. Perfect question.
Thank you. Maureen?
Well, this brings to mind the transfer tax when that was proposed and how we fought against that. The county commissioners had a $3 million shortfall. Well, then we went back in the spring or so, and they had a $5 million surplus. And I advocated for that at that time, for more funding for our public safety and for the schools. In fact, Dr. Hill came up to me afterwards and thanked me for that. Right now, the sitting county commissioner president at one point raised the tax rate. Okay, those who are in real estate here are very familiar with that. And that was during the time, you know, things had gotten slow, the market got slow, sales are off, so tax revenues aren't coming in like they need to support the budget. Okay, well, the promise was that after the market came back a bit, that tax rate would come down, and it hasn't. So those are things that are happening locally, but also can be addressed on a state level as well. Number one, for every gallon of gas you pay, 35 cents goes to taxes. I want to be your ambassador to go to Annapolis and make sure that some of that money comes right back in here to Charles County. All the hearings I've been at, I never ever heard anyone say, I'm so-and-so, and I'm a Democrat or Republican or independent, whatever. It was all about Charles County. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, it's a two-part question. Let me give you a two-part answer. First of all, you said that that we are the highest tax county in Maryland. That's true. Many of you have seen this piece. I think we had it at the county fair, actually. That shows the actual tax rate of every single county in the state, and we are the highest tax county. That certainly begs the question, as we're the highest tax county, do we have the best roads? Do we have the highest amount of education? Are we number one in anything else besides the highest tax? So I think I'm really looking forward to a new set of commissioners to help cure some of these problems, because we're not getting our money's worth. It just seems to me, obviously, we're the highest tax without the best stuff, so we're not getting our money's worth. Number two, as far as education goes, that's also a great part of the question. How many of you remember when they sold us the bill of goods that all the casino money was going to go to schools and education, right? Where did it wind up? The general fund. Now there's a question of the ballot, though, this time around, that we hope we're supporting and we hope will pass, to guarantee that all the money from the casino and gambling goes into the education fund of the state. What they've done before is they put it in there and then they took it out the general fund, which is kind of a sleazy way to do things in Annapolis, but that happens sometimes in Annapolis. And I think we can all agree that we definitely need to focus that money and ideal all that money from casino gambling to education. Thank you.
Hi, two-part question, 90 seconds, tough question. So number one, economic development. We have the highest property taxes, the worst traffic. Highest property taxes, 28 kids in the classroom, trailers out back. If we have the highest property taxes, we're not getting our fair share from Annapolis. You need one state senator is all you get. You need that one state senator to fight for more in Charleston, in Annapolis or Charles County. I'll be a senator that puts Charles County first and fights. We need economic development. I'll work with the county commissioners. We need to raise Indian Head again, put jobs down there, fill those buildings, raise the economic development base down there. More commercial taxes will take the pressure off of residential taxes, because we're the top tax rating for our homes. That's going to force more and more people to move out of Charles County. So let's get economic development money, commercial tax base, take the pressure off the residential taxes. 2, Governor Hogan this year, $6.5 billion in education funding. That's a record for Maryland. A lot of people don't talk about that number. But even at $6.5 billion, it's not enough. We need more money so we can retain teachers and we can attract new teachers. We need to raise the money going into education. We can do that through a variety of means. The lockbox will put about $135 million a year more into the education fund. We probably need to get it to about $7.5 billion. So these are real complicated questions for 90 seconds. But you need people who are well thought out and well versed and have researched these things, not people who fly off the seat of their pants.
We will move on to our next question. That was actually, the writer of this question wanted it asked specifically to the senators, but since we have a small group up here, and I think the question is applicable to everyone, I'm going to ask this question of each of you. We're going to begin this one with Maureen, just so you know. The question is, what experience or achievements do you have to be able to bring good jobs and larger employers to Charles County? And how will this experience transfer to your role as a newly elected official?
Okay, good question. For example, when the Waldorf Urban Redevelopment Corridor was underway, it's since been defunded, but the goal of the county, and they came to the chamber to ask for some help with facilitating, with getting all the business owners from that corridor in for a presentation. Yours truly and my team went out, we knocked on every door, we talked to every business person, we got everyone there to the luncheon that they had. You know, I'm all about jobs and also all about businesses. So, you know, bringing them to, you know, number one, in other areas of the country and places that I've been and I've worked in, you know, you have tax incentives, you have incentives to draw the manufacturers and the different companies to a particular hub, okay? You know, Beretta, okay, we all know, has left and gone to Tennessee to do their manufacturing and employ 300 people. They were in Accokeek since the 70s, since I first started living here and coming out here. What could we have done differerly, either at the state level or the local level, to keep them, maybe not in Prince George's County, but how about Charles County? And those are, you know, that's one example. Schutz came to our town, to Charles County. There are other companies out there. We just need to have streets that don't look like they're all boarded up, and have more appeal for why they want to, you know, move to Charles County, like they are right now in St. Mary's County, where it's very user business friendly for companies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, the question is, what experience or achievements do I have to help the economic development? First of all, as a successful businessman, I've owned businesses, and I know what it feels like to sign over 100 checks a week, and then hope at the end of the day, there's one left for you. I understand those challenges, and I appreciate that. And the way we bring economic development, my background is somewhat in sales, also running my own business, but I gotta sell my own business. The way we get to do this is we sell Charles County. We sell the positive aspects of Charles County, all the things about Charles County that we love. Unfortunately, we've also got to work around the negatives to that. When a business looks to move into a given area, they look at typically 3 top things. What are the schools structurally for their employees? Transportation, is things accessible? And the tax bases. Those are 3 key elements. And right now, those are 3 negatives in Charles County. So we start by getting good economic development by working on those 3 things, eliminating some of the negative aspects of those, talking about the positive things of Charles County, and selling Charles County the way we all know and love it.
Mr. Dodson, go.
Okay, as a large business owner, I've actually employed over 500 people and started multiple businesses, so economic development is my specialty. But you know, as I've traveled the last 18 months around the state, because when you want to hire, that's when you vote for me, you hire me, the state senator, you want somebody who's versed on economic development. I've traveled to other counties. The airport in Frederick is an economic driver. The airport in St. Mary's is an economic driver. We have Indian Head again closed down. I just spent a whole day with the owner of the St. Mary's County Airport. They have robotics, they have drones, they have research and development. They've reached out to the University of Maryland and they're doing partnerships. They have innovation hubs, they have entrepreneur hubs, they have business technology and innovation groups that meet. These are all fostered and paid for by St. Mary's County government. There are things that we can do to foster and develop more economic development in Charles County. The best social program is a job. What Charles County needs is more economic development. We need to utilize state programs. We're state delegates, state senate. We have more jobs for Marylanders. We can use that program to bring jobs like nanotechnology. You've got to hire the right people to get the right job done. You've got to know people that actually know what they're doing, that have researched and well thought out plans, and then we'll have great results in Charles County.
Well, fortunately for myself, I'm the chair of the Business Regulations Subcommittee, which means a lot of these things that we're talking about come through me on the state level. And I'll be honest with you, the last 4 years, or 3 years that I've had it, I've just been playing defense, trying to stop the fight for 15, because while it's a good idea in some jurisdictions, it's not a good idea throughout the state. Some of these jurisdictions can't afford to pay for that, actually on the individual county. As well as, with the decrease in some of these requirements we have to start these small businesses, because it's very difficult to start a small business. As I said, to my wife's chagrin, I taught my wife in moving her business from Virginia to Charles County, across from the NBA, and she curses me out pretty much every day. It's a much better drive, but it's a lot more difficult for her to get business. And she has worked very hard, and to watch her business suffer is a problem. So I have to live this every day. An additional thing for Western Parkway, one of the things that we were talking to Jay Walker just last night, a delegate from Prince George's County, trying to get those 210 overpasses forward funded so we don't get them taken off. Because right now we have that money, we have the goal of having 5 overpasses going on 210, and I promise you, I know it's a long time, but you can't put them all at the same time because you'll literally stop traffic on 210. But once we're 15 minutes from the Beltway, Western Parkway will grow. Or excuse me, the Western Park Charles County will grow. It will expand. We will have everything that we need because you can only build so much in Herndon. We have a lot of land, and I'm more than willing to let that land be saved for our larger businesses, buy that airport, do the things that we need to do as a county to lure them in. The whole building they will come thing is great, but first we need to be able to get there. If they need to be able to get from DC to us, that's what I'm currently doing now. Thank you.
So I'm going to move to an area that each of you pretty much touched on. But we're going to talk now about some transportation. And Dr. Wilson, have you lead off on this one. Understand that the questions come from community members. They may not overall understand the process that we go through. So the question is, in regards to transportation dollars, have you or will you vote to bring an equal share of transportation dollars back to Charles County rather than to other larger counties getting the lion's share of traffic funding? And why is our county not getting more funding? And what would you do to fix this? And that's a big question, guys.
These are all humongous questions. Well, a few things up front, because as Sally said, you go up there to slay the giant until you get there and realize just how big the giant is. We are 3 delegates. I'm not saying we can't do anything, but it is very hard. You have to be very, very tactical in how you do things. And currently there is no bill that divides all the transportation money up by county. And there's not gonna be. So we can live in a pretend land where that's gonna happen, or we can fight for the real world where I have to sit here and determine on a day-to-day basis what I'm gonna support, what I'm not gonna support in order to get good dollars. So, do you curry favor by selling your values, or do you fight to the end even though there's nobody fighting behind you? And that's kind of what that question is asking with 3 delegates and 1 senator. That's going to be each individual decision. So I can say here and say, now I will fight as hard as I can to make sure I get the money that Charles County needs. But understand this from my point of view, if Prince George's County gets the money for those overpasses, that's Charles County money. If we get some money to upgrade 301, the little nightmare interchange up there, that's Charles County money too. Am I going to sit here and ask for money for the light rail? I can laugh and say yes, but that's a pie in the sky that my great-great-grandkids want to see because we have 3 delegates. So what I'm going to do is live in the real world where we can fix some of our short-term problems. And maybe at some point in the great future, we can get a light rail. But in the meantime, we just have to upgrade 301, upgrade 210, and utilize those relationships that Sally was talking about with Prince George's County in order to let them think they got it. Because it's their money, but it's our benefit. Because again, we're 3 delegates. But we need to learn to work with, not just stay on our feet. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dodson, Bill, why don't you begin?
Okay, well, it's interesting, because in 2016, the roadkill bill actually was a bill that hurt Charles County and did send the money up the road. But the bill got repealed, so we won't bring that up. You know, we have Teacher said it right. There's real things we can do now. We can do rapid bus transit now. We can do interactive traffic lights now that make the traffic lights adjust. We can upgrade 301 and get a 15 to 18% improvement in traffic. I've spoken to Secretary Brown of Transportation. These are things that we can do 2-3 years. You know, when you have a problem this big, you don't jump to an answer. My opponent talks about Mark Train. Well, we don't even have the right to CSX tracks. We don't own them. There's already been a study in place that said those tracks are not compatible to the Mark Train. So this is what happens when you have an unprepared candidate. We have real answers that can really change and improve Charles County's transportation. You need to pick a senator and a delegates that go to Annapolis, that understand the issues, that are well thought out, well prepared, and you'll see results in the next 2 or 3 years, or more traffic.
Thank you. Ms. Woodruff, Maureen.
Thank you, Sally. I just want to echo what Phil has said too. I drove up Indian Head Highway 210 for 10 years. I'm sure there's several of you out in the audience that have, or maybe still currently are driving up and down either Indian Head Highway or 301. Our preferred method right now is what? Cars, vans, and buses. Okay, rapid, metro. I always give a scenario. There's 850,000 people just north of us here in Prince George's County. We have 130 to 150,000 people here in Charles County. So even if we combine the Tri-County area, we still don't have enough that would support such $1 billion, transit for, within the 3 counties. It has to be something that's going to support it, not just Monday to Friday, but Monday through Sunday. So what are we going to do in the meantime? I stood there sign waving yesterday morning up by Brandywine, and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm real happy that I don't have to drive that anymore. And the cars are just flooding up 301. Like Bill says, rapid bus transit. That will be one way, and interactive lights that will help today. The other metro, as much as we all love to have that, we're talking probably more like 20 years from now.
Thank you. Jim?
Well, really, there was a 3-part question, but the first part was easy. Well, I voted for to make sure that Charles County gets its share on the House floor. Well, that's one place. Of course, we'll do that, and any of us would, obviously. But the next 2 parts of the question says, why isn't Charles County getting more funding, and how do we fix it? Well, the first question is, why are we getting more funding? Part of that is because I don't think we have enough, we're not fighting the right fight, fighting it the right way, and that's part of the answer to how to fix it. For example, I met with Secretary of Transportation, Pete Ron, myself, on some other issues, besides just Charles County's transportation in the past few years. And that's one of the places we began as a delegate. We don't just wait for to have action happen on the House floor. We actually go to the administration officials who have the power to put priorities for us in line. For example, 2 years ago, out of the 24 jurisdictions in Maryland, 23 counties in Baltimore City, do you know where Charles County ranked as far as how much of the money it got for transportation that year? Out of 24 jurisdictions, we were number 23. Obviously, we need to do some serious hard fighting with the right people, and I intend to do that in Annapolis.
I'm going to go a little further with that question. One of the things that we see is the advent of many motor vehicles that are very fuel efficient. And as you know, our gasoline tax is based on the number of gallons. So therefore, for instance, my Honda, I can get 400 miles off of a tank of gas now. So we're seeing less income come into the coffers of the Transportation Trust Fund simply because we have more fuel efficient vehicles. Is there something that you would recommend we do in order to find other avenues of income that would not hurt the residents of the state at a significant level, but would add funds to the Transportation Trust Fund? Mr. Dodson, Bill, do you want to take a whack at that one?
That's a tough one, because when you fill up, you pay $3.10 a gallon. What Ms. Jameson says, 35 cents goes into the transportation fund out of that $3.10 a gallon. The other fund for transportation is the toll fund. That's how Governor Hogan is doing the Harry Nice Bridge. He took the money out of the toll fund. So we have record spending this year in transportation spending. Governor Hogan set the record this year. But what's happening is the transportation fund is collecting less money because, as Ms. Jameson clearly said, she's right. As cars get more miles per gallon, we're going to have less money going in the transportation fund. So here's a Republican that's going to tell you the truth. We're probably going to have to raise the gas tax, which, by the way, is already retroactive every July anyway. So the gas tax automatically goes up every July. I don't know if you know that. So we want better roads. But here's the thing. We want better roads for Charles County, not for Montgomery County. So our deal is not so much to fight a penny or two on a gallon gas tax increase. It's to make sure that we get our fair share. 35 cents going up the road every gallon, we're getting 4 cents. Who thinks 4 cents out of 35 is fair when Montgomery County is getting 12? Not fair.
Again, as Sally stated, we're basically looking for a way to expand the transportation trust fund, because right now it's from tolls. I think when you sell your vehicle, your title transfer, and your gas tax, and that's really again where Billy said where we're stuck at. And yeah, of course you want to go up there and rally. I think one of the best ways to do it, Mr. Crawford said, is the relationships that you build as far as getting monies. And I've been working very closely with the governor and the staff to try it, because it's important whether it's a Republican or a Democrat to be able to work with them. Because, you know, God willing, you know, the best man will win. And I'll continue to work with him to better our county, because right now we have a lot of people calling him a liar, a thief, things of that nature. That doesn't help us. But again, a way to expand without raising taxes, it's very difficult because, again, I just said when you get up there, it's so much different. You're one of 141. Trying to say, look, I'm not voting for anything until Charles County gets their money. They're like, okay, well, you stand over there. Because we have 140 other people that are going to do what we need to do, and they're going to get in line. And picking your battles is the hardest part to try to do. So did I want to support the gas tax? I didn't. Did my wife curse me out the whole way home because I swore I wasn't going to vote for it and then vote for it? She sure did. She still brings it up as something that I did. But talked to the governor at the time and my delegation, and I took that vote. Do I regret it? Well, thank God taxes went down, because I probably wouldn't have got reelected. But I understand that, meaning that when you go up there, all these theories sound really good until they're put into practice. Because you can't just say I'm not voting for anything until I get what I want, because you just won't get what you want.
Thank you.
Okay, yes, that's a whole nother, problem, obviously, that needs some solutions to it, and what exactly that's gonna be, I'm not really sure. Like they just mentioned, okay, you've got the tolls, you've got the gas, and you've got some of the, transfer titles and registration and all that going on. Are those fees gonna go up to help offset what's, being lost? That will remain to be seen, I'm sure, and for a while anyway. Have to be real creative about that. The other thing is, I believe, and I've heard and I've read from others who have gone up there, yes, we are going to be fighting and fighting and fighting for for Charles County. There's no question about that. And that's my old slogan. You know, I believe I will work with Governor Hogan. He's endorsed me, and you know, I'm not going to work against him. I'm going to work with him. So, you know, what will that mean? Will it mean that I'll have to sign off on something that may allow some of the our funding to go north? Well, we'll have to wait and see. But you know, we obviously are going to, you know, have to be very creative about that.
Thank you, Maureen.
Well, let me start by saying categorically, I don't vote for tax increases, I don't care. That's not what I do. So, how do we get money in trust fund and transportation then? We take from other sources. There are other sources of revenue from the state. Business is up, business taxes are up, obviously. There are other ways to get money, move it around, be more creative with your budget. Look, I've been responsible for budgets for multi-million-dollar businesses. I know you can move things around. So it's a question of being creative, being willing to do that, and being willing to fight for those kinds of things. And Bill's right, we're not getting our fair share, and that's where it needs to start. We need to go get our fair share. That's the real answer to the question is, move the funds around, get it from different sources, not from just raising a gasoline tax. I think we're taxed enough. And by the way, I still pay the same amount of tax on my 36 Ford when I put gas in it too.
The next question is a person saying, I commute every day from La Plata to Largo, traveling on Route 301. Traffic has become a serious issue with an increase of vehicles and drivers who do not obey traffic laws, and there is a lack of enforcement for aggressive driving. How do you plan to address and implement a solution to the traffic congestion in your elected role? And have you ever driven during rush hour from La Plata into Prince George's County on 301 and back? So we'll begin that with Mr. Crawford. Jim.
The last answer to that question is really easy. Yes, I certainly have. And my solution, matter of fact, this morning, past couple mornings, I've driven to Baltimore, Pennsylvania. So my solution is, I leave at 4 o'clock in the morning. That's not right for everybody, I understand that. Hey, that's how you solve the problem. It is ridiculous. And yes, we have terrible people out there in the morning who, some of them really need to go on decaf, you know what I mean? There's people out there driving crazy. And consequently, we need some better enforcement against aggressive driving. I definitely approve and appreciate that. Solving the transportation problem from going is not an easy step, but there are other things we can do fairly quickly to help ameliorate those sort of problems we have. One would be to put in just some bus and HOV lanes. We can start with that. It's been very successful in certain areas of Pennsylvania and Virginia. I've noticed and observed that myself, and I think we could do some experimentation around here and maybe get some more, get some value out of that as well. So there are things we can do and we should look at. That's just one example. And my time's up. I got the yellow card.
Maureen is with us.
Yes, I too have driven up and down the road, and in fact, even on a Saturday to get up over to the Largo area for a test. And I thought, oh my gosh, it's as bad on Saturday morning really as it is the rest of the week. You know, again, what's the real congestion is, and I brought this up at the Economic Development Summit with the county when Greenberg Gibbons talked about their new development going up where the old chain building was right across from the Dunkin' Donuts, right at, you know, Pinefield there, okay, and along the Meantime Road. But everybody in the audience had to be sitting there wondering, okay, how much worse can it get? And it could get a lot more worse because that's going to be a multi-mixed, you know, project there. So could there be a bypass like they have up the road by, you know, Woodyard Road and some of those, you know, put in? Something like that would certainly relieve the congestion. You know, going up to 10, there's money earmarked for, you know, more up there by the Beltway, more road work to be done there. But the main problem that I see, because otherwise, many times when I go up and down the road over to Alexandria, Indian Highway, I breeze up and I breeze down. Even in the evening when it's 5 o'clock, it's nowhere near as bad as the Brandywine and 301 traffic situation is. So just need to, see what happens here with the development. I believe there is some, monies appropriated for that through the county and through the developer.
Thank you, Delegate Wilson.
I guess it's, well, first of all, one of my best friends up in Annapolis is a guy named Bill Folk. He's a Republican up there. You guys know him. And he has a bill called the Left Lane Bill. They call him Left Lane Bill Folk because I might not give the answer you want to hear, but my honest opinion is sometimes it's aggressive drivers. Sometimes it's people that are not paying attention when they're driving. Basically what this bill says is, especially during rush hour, don't be in the left lane and let them not pass it. Because that is disruptive too. We need to understand people don't want you driving fast. When you're driving 55 and the guy driving beside you driving 54, it's killing me. My law office is in Prince George's County. I try to do one every single day, and half the time I'm behind 2 trucks. I don't know what they're trying to do, but one's trying to pass the other one, and it's a mile and a half of traffic. So while that might not be the answer to the aggressive question, it is the answer to the traffic question. Get over. That's just what we were taught in driver's ed. Part 2 is maybe, and we have to work to time these lights to make sure that during rush hour, they don't go red. Because you can do the U-turn lanes. In Germany, that's what they do. They don't disrupt traffic. If you need to get off, you need to go up a little ways, make a U-turn, come back around, because during rush hour, it's traffic that counts. See, the left lane bill is important to me, not just Bill, my best friend, because I have to drive these roads every day. And until we get the money, we can at least get our time off the road by people driving, recognizing other folks got to get to work too. So I can't enforce Prince George's County's police laws, but I can say that if you just get over, let other people go through, let other people pass, that would work great for everyone. Thank you.
Wi-Fi interactive traffic lights work better because they adjust with the traffic instead of being timed. But the bigger problem is 70% of the people in the county have to drive out of the county to get a job. Start there. We've had a county the last 8 years that's closed for business, no economic development. You bring some jobs back here. Listen, our kids graduate high school, college, they can't find a job here that makes the kind of money they need to make. They go to Arlington, Alexandria, DC. Start with bringing high-paying jobs here to the county. Robotics, manufacturing, research and development. Then you'll have more people staying here. If the people are staying here, they're not driving out on 301 in the morning. High tide lifts all boats. Let's start getting economic development going. Let's bring jobs here. Let's work on, as CT said, those overpasses on 210, rapid bus transit. I'm not 100% sure that light rail MARC train is ridiculous. Light rail may be in our lifetime because there's a straight shot 19 miles to Branch Avenue. See, and my opponent will tell you MARC train is the answer. How many people go to DC and want to go to Bowie and then transfer back around? The light rail will take you into Branch Avenue. So listen, there's real thoughts and real ways to do this, but I'm telling you, you've got to have people that know what they're doing, that have thought this out, that have met people, met with the experts. My building career, I don't build a building on my own. Engineers, architects, meet the people who know economic development, who know transportation. Get this thing solved.
So I'm going to move to a question about development and growth. Thank you. I have the best husband in the world. The building of new single-family homes in parts of Maryland is being brought to a standstill. The reason for that is overcrowded schools. The locations that are affected also have a growing population of undocumented immigrants. Many of the single-family homes are now being used as multi-family dwellings, increasing the amount of students in our schools. Also, recent surveys show that 42% of the families are also non-English speaking. Do you see this as a problem? And if elected, what would you propose as a resolution to this problem?
I'm sorry. Could you repeat some of that?
Sure.
That was a paragraph.
Yes, it is. We will go back through it again. It was a lot. The question is, the building of new single-family homes in parts of Maryland is being brought to a standstill. And the reason is because the schools are overcrowded. The locations that are affected also have a growing population of undocumented immigrants. Many of the single-family homes are now being used as multi-family dwellings, increasing the amount of students in our school. Recent surveys show that 42% of the families are non-English speaking. Do you see this as a problem? And if so, what would you propose as a resolution if you were elected or reelected? I think Delegate Wilson would like to speak.
I was just complimenting how great these questions were. As far as all the debates I've taken in 8 years, that's the worst question I've ever heard. I'll be honest with you. And somehow to say somehow illegal immigration is the problem with new houses not being developed. I mean, you talk about a stretch. Again, when we talk about the lunatic right and the lunatic left, I'm not going to dignify that with too much of an answer, because I know that say 42%, that's the number of we already have regulations. You already have to have a law and rent. Enforce that. If you know where these houses are, call somebody. Because I guarantee you that number's made up, that problem's made up. I have never heard that before. They say the schools are overcrowded because of illegal immigration. We have way bigger fights. That's what I said in the beginning. We're going to focus on little bitty nonsense. We have veterans that are homeless. We have people that opioid crisis. We're going to talk about illegal in Charles County, non-English speaking people. You find me 3, because I can.
Mr. Dodson.
I'm with CT. That question was off. It may be for another jurisdiction, but we're running to represent Charles County and Annapolis, and I don't think anybody here sees runaway immigration as a problem. I see a homeless village behind the Walmart in La Plata as a problem. I see traffic as a problem. The only part of that I'll dignify that question was, Charles County does have the 3rd fastest growing ESL population in the state of Maryland. That is a fact. And so we do have to look at our teachers and say, how are we going to fund education? Because our ESL population in Charles County is growing, and so that requires some budgetary things, and I trust the school board to handle that. We wouldn't, as CT said, we fund a per student from Annapolis. You know, we got to face the problems that are, as I always say in business, you got to face the alligators out in front of you. Traffic, Indian Head. But we should, homelessness, we should bring that up, and I hope there is a question about that, because that is a problem in Charles County. Let's work together. I will say this, one delegate didn't show up here today, spent the last legislative session working hard on sanctuary state and free college for illegal. So maybe that question was for the delegate that didn't show up here today. So thank you very much.
When they say that they put the brakes on housing, I've been very involved with the Charles County Chamber of Commerce here for the past 4 years. And a couple years ago, we had another summit. And at that time, Anna Sue and also Dee Bellis came and gave us some reports. I was looking at some of the slide presentations last night to refresh my memory on things. And right then and there, we were behind on the delivery of how many homes need to be delivered now to keep up with the population growth between now and 2035. At about 252 less homes right now per year. So we're behind right now because we have not been growing at that pace. And but with that, we also have to have commercial development as well to help relieve some of the stress on the residential real estate taxes. So just wanted to interject.
Thank you. Mr. Crawford. Jim.
Thank you. Well, I don't quite share CT's passion for the question, but I appreciate it. And if we consider the fact that we are having problems with overdevelopment of homes in general, not so much single family, but townhouses and everything else, because the infrastructure has not been able to keep pace, has not kept pace with the increase in population. And if you consider that education is one aspect of our infrastructure in general, kind of a broad application of that, and we understand now, if anywhere close to this percentage is correct, if Bill's correct as far as the ESOLs, English as a second language, then we need to consider how we can better assimilate the encourage assimilation into our population from those students that are being trained and have English as a second language, it's not going to alleviate the problem. And we definitely have an illegal immigration problem throughout the state in various areas. We know that. You can't address it with one fell swoop, though. That's not going to happen. But I do think that we do need to consider our overall infrastructure when we consider any increase in housing whatsoever.
The next question is still about growth and new homes, but a little different angle. It feels as if Charles County's farmland is disappearing, and new homes and townhouses are being built everywhere there is vacant land. We do not have the infrastructure to support this ongoing development. Traffic is unreal, schools are overcrowded, and crime is rising at an alarming rate. How do you plan to address this reckless path this county is traveling down? Can you do anything from the State House, or is this up to the local county government only? And I'm going to begin with Maureen.
Again, I think there's probably 3 questions in that in any event. Development. I'm hearing there's way too many homes and that kind of thing, and yet maybe that's more over on the eastern side of our county. On our western side of our county, we've had a Safeway close. Okay, that didn't close because they had strong demographics there. And housing, we have NAMA who just partnered with the base, since the base is now site based, and they're wondering where their executives are going to move to. So there's, to some people, let me explain. Some people, 5 homes in a development, like I lived in at one time, were too many homes. Okay, and I know no one wants to hear this, but it is going to continue to develop normally. Okay, like our base is our largest employer here in Charles County, employs 3,000 people. Normally development, just like down in St. Mary's County, it grows up around the employers. That's the economic growth for that hub. However, it's all been concentrated over here on the eastern side of the county. And so, there will continue to be the growth. There needs to be the growth, again, just to keep up with the population that will be arriving here over the next 20, 30 years.
Thank you. Jim, Mr. Crawford.
Well, I hate to see any of our farmland continue to go. I think we all do. We love Charles County, partly because it was so rural, and it's getting less rural all the time. Not much we can do about that, but the question really was, what can we do at the State House level to do anything about that? The heaviest burden, no question, falls on the local county commissioners. That's their responsibility, their job. But at the State House level, there are things we can do. A couple things in particular. Number one, we can encourage the preservation of our open lands. And we can do that through various projects that are already some on board that we are not utilizing the capacity at all in terms of preserving some of the natural farmland and woodlands areas. But secondly, this goes back to economic development again. We need economic development in the county, not building dwellings for people to live here. We got enough living here right now, we're out of balance, that's a problem. We're out of balance. We need economic development, and that's a good partial solution, a good place to start for the solution to the problem.
Thank you.
Again, to be honest, to tell me that there aren't too many homes here when my daughters go to school, a crowded school, or traffic. I drive up 301, 210 every day, even on Saturdays. So I can't disagree that the residential development is ridiculous. And again, I told you, if you ask me a question, I'll give you my opinion. Plus the fact that I bought a home for $500,000, it's only worth $275 maybe. Is it $300 now? Because they keep building. I'm driving by other homes, brand new, ready to move. That means nobody ordered it for $275. Who's going to buy my old home? So for people to say that we're just building, I'm sorry. I disagree. I have a lot of friends in the realty. I'm sorry. I disagree. It's a problem. It's a problem to me because that home is no longer investment. I'm just trying to pay it off because God knows I'm not going to be able to get anything for it. As far as the Safeway, I'll let you know. We had Safeway and Food Line right next door. That's just bad business. And guess what? The Food Line owned that building. So I went and met with the GM, and they're going to upgrade that Food Line like they did in Howard County. They're going to sell nice meats. They're going to sell nice stuff, because that's what leaders are going to do. You adapt and overcome. We don't need 2 stores over there. Good riddance to Safeway, because they offered to cut their rent by a third, and they still rolled out with no notice. Food Line bought it. Let's support Food Line. Let's help them upgrade. There are ways of doing this without packing this town full of people, because until we have jobs, dude, I gotta drive these roads. I've gotta drive these roads, and believe me, there's nothing more frustrating than to leave at 6 and to get home at 6, because my daughters miss me too.
Well, first, I'm proud to be the only candidate up here that's endorsed by the Maryland Farm Bureau, and I'm proud the Maryland Farm Bureau was my first endorsement. There's a lot we can do at the state as far as preserving land through the Department of Agriculture. The Secretary Martin Felder, we can work on what's called TDRs, and basically what that is, where a farmer who doesn't want his property to be developed can go to the state and get tax credits, TDRs, so that he in fact can put his farm into preservation, so it's not later developed into townhouses and houses. So there is that aspect of it. Number 2, I agree. We have way overbuilt and we have not kept up with the infrastructure. This is again why traffic is the #1 issue. So what we can do at the state level, because the cart already got in front of the horse, so we can't reverse that, and the county commissioners are in charge of residential zoning. However, what's happened over the last 8 years, we've had commissioners that says closed for business, no economic development. When there's not jobs, the only way is to go out of town. We got to reverse that trend. We got to work to bring jobs in town. You bring jobs in town. You know, if you travel across the country, South Carolina, Boeing comes, Charleston booms. You know, Mercedes comes, Columbia booms. When big jobs come, that neighborhood booms. We got to work where jobs are here, not there. Then we'll have real solutions.
So there's a few questions that deal with the opioid problem that we have, not just in Charles County, but Southern Maryland and throughout the entire state. As a representative or senator, how do you plan to address the ongoing opiate crisis in Southern Maryland? And what interventions would you like to see put in place to ensure that the needs of those suffering from this addiction will be met? Mr. Johnson? Bill?
Big question, 90 seconds. 1, we don't have a mental health hospital in Charles County. A prelude usually to an episode with opioids is a mental health breakdown. Right now, somebody has a mental health breakdown in Charles County, they're carted off to Calvert. We need real ways to address opioids. 2, we only have 3 full-time psychiatrists in Charles County. This is wrong. You know, we talk about homelessness. What part of homelessness is tied into mental health issues? Okay, when you go out in the woods behind Walmart and you see that village, don't you think maybe mental health issue is part of the problem? We're not doing enough to address it. And when it comes to addiction centers, you know, having a new addiction center open up in Charles County that's $25,000 for somebody to go through rehab, that's nice if you have money, but guess what? We need rehab centers that take Medicaid, because guess what? We need to help our indigent people. You know, everybody talks about homelessness, but they don't have any answers for people who are trying to overcome these issues. So let's deal with Medicaid and getting rehab centers. Let's deal with mental health. Let's get a psychiatric hospital here in Charles County. Let's do the right things for our people, not just talk about it.
Well, Billy said most of what I was going to say. I was looking at my notes. But I'm going to say this, and I think I've said this every time. Excuse me for my little rant. But, you know, heroin's always been a problem in the black community. In the inner cities of D.C., it never went away. It was here in the 70s. It was here in the 80s. When I became a prosecutor in 2000, it was here. I was surprised because I didn't really hear about it. But it was inside the Beltway. And this is another one of these times you need to pay attention and realize, yeah, it's not our problem, but don't wait till it becomes our problem, because now it's our problem. That's our risk. But see, Baltimore City still has the highest overdose of heroin addicts. Not Calvary, St. Mary's. See, but it wasn't a problem then. So the next time we see these problems on the rise, don't wait till they affect you, because they're going to affect each and every one of us. We just got to wait. Luckily, Billy and I, our church, we go out, we see these individuals, the homeless people. And you're right, they're all addicted. There's no mental health. These folks don't want to come in. We try and bring them in just so they have a place that's warm. They don't want to leave because they have mental health issues. So clearly, the greatest issue, because heroin, opioids, is an escapism drug. That's what it is. If you've seen them, they fall asleep, guys. This isn't where they get a lot of work done. It's not where they have a great fun weekend, doing 8-ball and run around strip clubs all weekend. They sleep. It's an escapism drug. And we are not attending that issue. We don't have no counseling psychologists. The schools can't handle it. When the kids have problems, we can't do anything about it. So until we fund, and that's something the state can do, start boosting up our Medicaid, paying these individuals, making it worthy for them to get into that program, and make sure we don't wait till they have to, until we have more people die. Thank you.
Yes, the opioid crisis is a crisis. Charles County alone has, in 2016, had 3 times the number of people died to overdose than St. Mary's County, for example. So we do need better facilities, we need better resources for people, be it a facility that does take Medicaid. A lot of these people, they can't afford the $25,000 for rehab. They need something that's going to be palatable for them, that they can walk into the place, the facility, feel that they're going to get the help that they need, and help, restore their lives or bring their lives back to some more stability. The homeless thing, maybe that is a mental health issue. I think that all goes back to a person's own hierarchy of needs and where you maybe have been, where you're going, where your goals are. I know I've seen it in some Charles counties where, they were in the mobile home. They got out of the mobile home due to kerosene homes, starting the mobile home on fire. Next thing you know, they're in an apartment in Waldorf. Well, they can push a button now to get heat or air conditioning or whatever, and they've gotten themselves into better, facilities. I know I attended a women's conference down in St. Mary's County about 2 years ago, and a woman asked the audience, how many of you have taken Percocet? How many of you have taken OxyContin? How many of you have taken, certain addictive drugs? And she made a comment, it only takes one, which is a pretty sad thing. I'm sure all of us have lost someone to it.
Thank you. Mr. Crawford, Jim.
Well, I think statistically, we all know someone, or at least 1 or 2 steps removed, who's actually died of an opioid overdose. I've had 2 friends in the last year die of opioid overdose. And I take this problem very seriously personally. But I think we have a 2-part approach for a solution. Number 1 is we do need, as Bill said, more mental health facilities in Charles County. We need some support, that kind of support. But I'm not one that only looks for the government for support. I like to look outside the box. Just like tonight, that table over there is full of canned goods and things being brought in to be helpful. Not as a government project, but as individuals, as an outside the box, thinking, not relying totally on government. I know firsthand, and I would strongly support from the state level, much more support for any faith-based type organization that wanted to reach out and help solve the opioid problem, because I think that actually could have more influence, be more effective, especially from a cost standpoint, than anything we can do at the state level, frankly. It's been proven over and over again all across the country.
Continuing on in that thought process, and many of you have already touched on this in your previous answer, but just a little expansion for the question. Do you agree that allocating tax money for drug rehab is a wise choice? And Jim, we'll start down with you, Mr. Crawford.
Okay, quick answer is yes. Because as we all know the old proverb, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And I would always advocate prevention type investment versus waiting down the line. It's a whole lot cheaper to try and nip in the bud and stop it than it is to pay for it later.
Thank you. Ms. Woodruff, Maureen?
Yes, I would agree with that too. It's going to take state funding, it's going to take other, resources. There's a lot of nonprofit groups out here right now that help our community out an awful lot. And so the combined resources is what's needed, and we'll help to advocate for that as much as we need to.
Delegate Wilson, CT.
Yeah, of course. As he said, you pay now, pay later. Of course, it's cheaper to pay now. But I'll say this. Also, it's our job to do something called oversight and accountability. So when you're getting your money out, you should get something for it, because many of these programs, they're fly-by-night programs. They only take it if you have Medicaid or insurance. And the recidivism rate for some of these programs for, to help these folks is through the roof. And if we're going to be the government and we're going to, start putting this money aside, we need to make sure that we are supporting the groups that are actually doing the job, not just taking the money. Because there is a plethora of organizations out there that are only saving lives if you can afford it. And then when you look, they're really not. So yes, of course we need to do it, but you can't just throw your money to them. Because oversight and accountability is very important. We need to make sure we're getting our money.
Well, yeah, state money, because what is Medicaid but state money? So we have to think about, again, every American citizen has the right to health care, has the right to be taken care of when they're in a crisis. And we have Medicaid for that, so yes. But we also need these rehab facilities that take Medicaid, because, what happens, if middle income families, they borrow against their house, they get a first mortgage, second mortgage, or whatever, trying to put their kids into rehab, and they go into these places that are $25,000, the recidivism's high, and then by the second or third time, now the family's out of money, and they no longer have any money, so we need the facility to take Medicaid. But, let's get to the bigger problem again. We don't have mental health hospital here in Charles County. Most of this goes back. See, we're dealing with the problem when it's here. What about we deal with the problem when it's here? I'd like to see mental health professionals in our high schools, so that as we start, we can get this caught early. We need mental health professionals in Charles, 3 paid psychiatrists, folks, in the whole county, right? We're trying to deal with the problem when they're on the overdose side. Let's deal with the problem back in the beginning. Let's nip it in the bud.
We'll now have a couple of questions that are related to education. How would you feel about offering a bill that would be for a tax write-off for homeschool parents that would help those parents help with the cost of that homeschooling? Is that clear enough? That was a hand-in question. So would you support doing a tax that would be a credit for parents who homeschool their children? And let's see, I think we're in the middle. Maureen, we'll start with you. Ms. Woodruff?
Well, it's really going to take quantifying that exactly, what each one of them are looking for. Is it dependent upon how many children they have at home? I've had friends that have homeschooled one child. I've had others that have homeschooled 5 children. So are they looking for a tax credit on their federal income taxes and their state income taxes? I believe they already get that if they're, have a household, that kind of thing. So I guess a lot more data would have to be available to analyze that and just see what exactly they're looking for.
Thank you. Jim, Mr. Crawford?
I would absolutely support sponsoring such legislation. I'll tell you why. It's all about economics, about the money. It saves us money. Charles County right now, the average student cost is $16,000 to $17,000 per year. Baltimore, Kansas City is more like $20,000. If we can give a tax credit to a family that wants to homeschool and do it properly and adequately, then there are ways that we have measures in the State Board of Education to improve it and assure that that's done properly and not just taking a tax credit on it. But it would save us money. I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. Sure, we give tax credits for lots of things. First responders, veterans, all kinds of things, programs. To me, homeschooling is a definite place to begin, or a different place to put valuable resources and assets. It would be cheaper in the long run. Think family's got 3 kids going to school, costing $15,000, $16,000, that's $45,000 of our tax money, that if we give them a $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 tax credit, no brainer.
Let's move to Mr. Dodson for his answer. Bill?
You know, I've got to address my opponent since he's not here. You've seen the recent video on my Facebook page, and we're advertising on TV. When Mr. Ellis took his kids out of school, and you have the right to homeschool, but he denigrated the school system, and then he said, we bought better teachers on the internet. The public school system is the backbone of our society, and that's where 90% of people go. So wherever you send your kids, private, homeschooling, or public, we should never do anything that hurts our public school. And we're all talking about paying teachers more, retaining teachers, paying new teachers more. Whatever we do, we've got to be very careful that we don't take any money out of the public school budget. Now, that being said, Jim's right. $14,800 per student we go to public school. About $7,500 comes from the state, the rest of the county, 3% federal. So, Maryland could save potentially about $7,500 per student when somebody's homeschooled. So I would be okay if there was a bill that I saw would not hurt public schools or the funding for, $3,000 or $4,000 tax credit for homeschooling. But again, we must do that in the light of protecting public schools, protecting our teachers. Because see, this is what people do. They say on one hand, we got to pay our teachers more, and then they say on the other hand, let's do this. If we got to put the public school teachers first, we've got to pay them more, we've got to retain them. That's the backbone of our system, is the public school system.
Everything's already pretty much been said. My daughter's going to public school, and my wife is sitting back there, and if you ask her, they don't get homework out in high school anymore, guys. Did y'all know that? Now, my kids don't know that because they still get homework as soon as they come home. It's just something that we create because while my children are at homeschooled, if you ask them, they're schooled at home. Because that is our job as well. But I support the public school system. And as Billy said, yeah, a tax credit is fine as long as it does not denigrate our public school system. For those of you guys that are out of school and your kids are out of school, I want you to understand your home value is largely dependent upon your public school system. Not how well you school them at home or how well the private schools do. So even if you think that the schools don't matter to you, they really do. Now granted, I'm not happy. My wife is furious at some of the things we're dealing with. But you know what? She goes to school at least two times a week now to try and figure it out because we're going to be active parents, making sure that the school system is going to get better. But I'm all about supporting our school system. I mean, homeschooling sounds great on a psychological level. Hopefully they can adjust when they get to college, unless you go to home college too. But I do hope that we do support our public school systems regardless. So yes, I guess we can do that, but make sure we don't lose track of supporting our school system. Thank you.
Our next question also deals with the schools. School safety reform is a big topic after a new bill was passed during the 2018 legislative session following a school shooting in St. Mary's County. Is it enough to legislate school safety, or is there another approach you can bring to the table that help protect our children? I'm going to begin with CT, Delegate Wilson.
Legislating school safety is very difficult. It's like legislating parenting. There's only so much you can do. The rest has to be done at home. I will say that I've said this before. The reason I always say I have kids in school because I need you to understand it's important. I believe I'm one of the only people running for office up here that actually have children in school. So I know that there are plenty of doors in my daughter's college or high school that don't close. The theory is we're going to put a smart board in front of the door if an active shooter comes in. So the design happens. See, I know that because I'm tied to it. It's important. I tell them I'm just a regular person who ran for office. I understand these problems, but it's not just something I've read in the paper. We think about them. I explain to my children what they need to do if they hear the pop pop and there's never fireworks going off in the middle of the day. But the problem is to legislate it until you get an understanding of what the shortcomings are is very difficult. Because what I find my party does a lot is we throw money at a problem. We will hurl some money at a problem instead of taking a minute, taking a breath, and actually getting in there and seeing just how the problem can be fixed. Because the problems for McDonough are not going to be the problems for St. Charles. They're not going to be the problems for North Point. And each thing has to be handled on an individual level. To give a block amount of money to each school to solve a possible school shooting problem is not only a waste of money, it's not actually solving the problem. So yes, we can legislate it, but it needs to be done with some knowledge of the individual school's needs. So we have to work with the locals as well.
Thank you. Let's move to Mr. Palmer. Jim? Thank you.
CT's right. What the state did as far as the approach goes, it really all boils down to supporting the local level, because everybody knows at the local level what's best for their school. What works in Cecil County doesn't always work in Allegheny County. We understand that, or Baltimore City or anywhere else. So the local input is just crucial in making that happen. And some places are going to be very effective, or they're going to have a different approach. I've heard of all kinds of crazy things all over the country happening, where they can put a box of rocks in a classroom, all kinds of stuff. Well, if it works for them, go for it. So yeah, I think that really the input at the local level is ultimately crucial, and that's the best approach to take.
Thank you. Maureen, Ms. Luker?
Thank you, Sally. Were you referring to the Safe School Act?
Yes.
Okay. And as I was reading through that, that refers a lot to bullying. And unfortunately, my son has experienced that many times for either stuttering or other issues.
Yeah, let me
Go ahead.
steer you straight. We are strictly discussing school shootings.
Just the school shooting. Okay, that's fine. It actually did hit home. One of my friends up in Kensington had a niece that was in one of the shootings, not one locally here, but elsewhere. So, it's a kind of thing, our schools are a target when the schools can be left open for anybody to walk in at any time of the day. Maybe there needs to be some, equipment put in to where, okay, somebody has to go through, just like you do at the airport. Unfortunately, 9/11 changed our lives forever, and we have to take off our shoes and everything else. So, to detect if anybody has any kind of a knife or anything else on them. It's cameras. I've seen where some schools are putting cameras and they can see where every move everyone's making in every class. So.
Thank you. Mr. Dodson?
Okay, so Charles County addressed some of this, and we have district by district is the right answer. We have to have accountability in the school system. You can have vestibules when you come into schools that lock the visitor into a certain vestibule. So the schools aren't open anymore. They're addressing this by having vestibules that you come into that lock you into an area, and then you have to be buzzed in. So they're doing this. But let me tell you, part of the answer, it just has to be funded. And I know everybody is so sensitive about funding, but we're going to have a school resource officer in every high school. I believe we should have a mental health officer in every high school. Because again, if you can catch this early, we've got to change our thinking from spend to invest. If we have a mental health officer in the hospital, in the schools, then what's going to happen is, as these children become troubled, that mental health officer is going to be able to see this coming and possibly report it. So funding for school safety, Governor Hogan did a good job in the last legislative session, and then afterwards, the county did a good job here in Charles County. This summer, I think 5 schools were upgraded with security vestibules. We need to address this head on. It's our kids. Money cannot be an object when our kids' safety. And by the way, my wife and I have 8 kids, all went through public schools. I do have a son who played at high school in the 11th grade.
One additional question, and I'm really just going to let you add a comment if you'd like to, because you've touched on it in some of your other questions. And it's about the question number 1 on the ballot. So each of you as voters should have already received your sample ballot, and there is an explanation of the ballot question. So question number 1 is about what is called the lockbox for education. This was a bill that, CT, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was introduced in the House, passed with, bipartisan support both in the House and in the Senate. And basically what it says is all of the money that comes in from casino gambling can only be used for education. That was the original intent. We had a couple of awful years with the budget, downturn in the economy. make it so that all of that money that comes in from the casinos has to be used for education. As I said, fully passed both houses, the governor signed it, and it's now on the ballot. Would you support ballot question number 1? Yes or no? Maybe? Bill?
Yes, 100%. Vote yes to the lockbox. We need that. That's about $138 million a year. We've got to get that money into education, but we need more. So yes to lockbox.
Thank you.
Yes to more funding for education.
I don't think you can find anybody up here that's going to say no to that. I just thought, I remember when we first voted for gambling, I was not for it. Honestly, the only reason I voted for it is because they guaranteed some money to upgrade to 10. I know it is a vice in our community, but I will say this, by the time I got there, slots were already here, this is big table gambling. And so, I was very disappointed that people were being hoodwinked. We were all kind of hoodwinked, I felt, because we were told it was going for education, and that's not what it went for. So this kind of corrects it and brings it back into line what a vast majority of us would have voted for, which then it increases the size of the spigot that we're using to fund our public school system. Now, again, I've read it, I don't think there are any loopholes this time, but to the intent that it was written, I believe it's a great idea and it's something we could all vote for. So, yes, I
Thank you. Maureen, would you like to make a comment?
Yes, I support Box, making more accountability for where the money's going to, and make sure that it is going into our education for our children.
Thank you. Mr. Crawford, Jim, comment?
Thank you. I addressed this in one of my answers earlier in the evening, and obviously, yes, I would definitely support the ballot issue number 1 because we need that. But it's also disappointing to me at the time it was originally that one of the principles I like to live by and I teach my grandchildren all the time is number 1, be honest with me. And I think our legislature was not honest with us when they took that money. They promised us going from casinos and spent it otherwise. And I think that was dishonest on their part. And I think that we need to bring some more honesty to the state legislature. Vote for me.
Thank you, Jim. And then the last question, we'll try to keep it to just a 1 or 2 word answer, but I think it's important that we, the voting members in this community, know that if you are elected, what will be your top legislative priority? Maureen, we'll start with you.
It would be funding, or not really funding, but just economic development that would hopefully bring a larger, stronger base to our community to be able to take care of our budget. I've been through the county's line item by line item on the budgets, and to see, that we have a correct amount of public safety needs, and money being, needs being met, along with our schools. Those are the 2 largest items of our budget here for the county. So
your answer is economic development.
economic.
Thank you. Delegate Wilson, CT.
To be honest, I think that what's always been is protecting victims of crime, and specifically child sex abuse victims, because that's kind of where I've fallen into since I've been up there. A lot of the things I stand for, but defendants have enough rights, our victims sure don't. They don't have a voice, and I've been trying to get a voice for the last 8 years.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, Bill.
Traffic, economic development, they go together. If you have economic development, you have less traffic. If you have less traffic, you can get more economic development. You can't separate the 2, and it equals quality of life. If we're not driving 4 hours a day, we're staying here, we have a better quality of life.
Thank you.
Thank you. And kind of a tough question. You said, what's your top priority? I mean, it's asking me like, which one of my children I love the most, I'm not a one-act deal here. I want to go to Annapolis and approach a lot of different things as my top priority. Everything, but I want to focus everything I do based upon what's good for Charles County. That's who I'm sending me to Annapolis. That's what we need to work on, whether it's transportation or economic development or opioid addiction or whatever it is. Those are the things that we need to see. I need to say first, how is it going to affect Charles County, and then let's go from that. And I'll be a champion for a lot of those things, including everything from criminal justice reform, for example. That's an issue that's been talked about. We need some people supporting this sort of thing because it's a problem here in Charles County. In fact, we know people that have all been affected by that. This is anything.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We're now going to move into providing 2 minutes for each of our candidates to do a wrap-up. I know your remarks are going to be very productive. So we look forward to hearing from each of you. And I'm just going to go right down the line here, beginning with Mr. Dodson. Bill, candidate for the Senate.
Thank you again for taking the time tonight. It's been a long campaign for me, 18 months. I'm proud to be endorsed by Governor Hogan, Charles County Police, the State Police, the Farm Bureau, the National Federation of Independent Business, the IAFF, which is the firefighters and the paramedics, National Federation of Independent Business, NPRG, MPIA, Maryland Business Industry Associates. I think there's a reason why I'm endorsed by so many people. Over the last 18 months, I have come up with a platform that has real solutions. It's not about Democrat, Independent, or Republican. It's about S solutions. We don't need another politician, whatever it may be, to come and just fly by the seat of the pants. There's a reason my opponent's not here. I did various forums with him in Senator Middleton. You can't smear your way to Annapolis and be effective. You've got to have real things. I want you to know, you're only going to get one senator. And that senator's going to go to Annapolis and he's going to fight for you. I'm going to work collaboratively with Governor Hogan. He's going to get reelected. I'm going to work with him. And if Ben Jones by some chance wins, I'm going to work with him too. We're going to get real results for Charles County. You get one senator. You need somebody who has thought this out, who is not just talking to you about transportation, but has spent a year meeting with the Secretary of Transportation, meeting with transportation experts. For somebody who's thought about economic development, who's traveled across the state to ask other counties, Frederick, St. Mary's, Allegheny, Worcester, and other ones, how did you get your economic development going? To deal with the opioid issue, to talk to mental health experts, to go into opioid clinics. You need somebody who has put the time in to earn your vote. I'm not asking you for your vote because I'm a Democrat, or I'm a certain color, or I belong to a certain party. I'm asking for your vote because I've done the work to earn your vote. I'm asking you to hire me on November 6th. And when you hire me, I'll fight for you in Annapolis. I'll make you proud that you hired me. I'll make you proud that you have a senator that fights for you every day in Annapolis. I'll earn your vote. I have been working for you. I'll continue to work for you. Vote Bill Dodson, November 6th. Thank you very much.
I'll say this, clearly my senator, I'm the only person in my party that showed up tonight. I'm still proud to be a Democrat because I'm good at what I do. I believe in the values that our party started. I think sometimes we deviate, but I know where my heart is. And many of you know me, you know where my heart is. I grew up in foster care, and I had a tough life. It was so tough I wrote a book about it. I joined the military, became a combat soldier. I was injured because of it. My greatest fight has been as a married man and a father. And that's why I ran, because I wanted to see things done better. My daughters are back there now, and they know, I always say, you can't complain, they ain't gonna do nothing. I put my hand in 8 years ago for a reason, because I want to see things made better. And I believe since I've been up there, Mother Teresa said you can't do great things, small things with great amounts of love. And I've done what I've done with great amounts of love. And I've stood alone many times. If you pull up the House debates on the House floor, I've stood against my party. I've fought hard for victims. I've fought with Republicans. I've fought against them. I've fought with Democrats. I've fought against them because I fought for what I thought was the right thing. I raised my hand as a proud Christian man trying to do his best for his families, for his community. I'm still tired. I still pay a mortgage. I still work. I still pay taxes. When the schools go bad, we suffer. The governor's a personal friend of mine, and I take a lot of flack for that. But again, I'm not here to be a partisan candidate. I'm not here to be a black candidate. I'm here to be a candidate. I've represented you for 8 years. It's been an amazing honor. I promise you, if I don't come back, it will have been worth it. Because if you ask me a question, I'm going to give you an answer. You might not like what it is, but I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to be trustworthy, and I will continue to fight as hard as I can for the people in my county, because every one of you, regardless of color, race, or religion, or party affiliation, deserve a good fight. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. What have I been doing the past few years here? And for many years, I've been advocating for a lot of different issues and things that have been going on in Charles County, whether it's economic development, whether it's homelessness, whether it's the schools, whether it's been public safety. There's been a lot of changes in 25 years to 30 years here. A lot of changes. We've been growing. We've had growing pains. And what are we going to do about that? I've seen where St. Mary's Star of the Sea, what I used to go to for 12, 13 years over Bryan's Road, has closed, okay? The Safeway now is closed. A lot of different changes. At one time, when I first came out here to Charles County, the base had 8,000 employees on it. At the same, so since it did, of course, we had a vibrant drugstore, a vibrant grocery store, we had a bank. Right now, none of those three commercial businesses are there in Indian Head. There's so many different things, and when people see where I've been at hearings one night after the other, they're like, Maureen, our chamber doesn't get that involved with different issues within the county. It's like, well, we do. I've done that personally, not to aspire to go to the state level or any other level. I was just there. Someone needed me, just like now. Someone asked me, I've been asked to step up to the plate here, and I have. Because there's things that do need to be taken care of here in Charles County, again, for the better quality of life, to ensure public safety in the schools are up to the standards that we want to keep them at. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I appreciate being here tonight. I appreciate the invitation. It's been a great turnout. And I thank those for viewing also on the podcast. But, I don't know why. Well, you get to vote for one senator and 3 delegates. We've got one senator candidate, 3 delegate candidate here. And I think you guys got a pretty good best bet going on right here with what showed up. I don't know what other ones didn't. But, this election, a couple of things I want to mention. First of all, we said that, we're only, a delegation is only 3 of 141 in the Maryland General Assembly. That's true. We get to vote for 3 at large in Charles County, in District 28, a little bit more than 27A. But, even though I would be only 1 of 141, I think everyone knows some people are more affected than others. And I want to be one of those 141 that everybody knows that Jim Crawford supporting this or advocating that or what have you. And I'll be very outspoken when it comes to a lot of things. I won't be one sitting in the back of the room just, voting once in a while. I don't want a participation trophy. I want a championship ring for Charles County. That's what I really want. But, this election really boils down to, I think, being about 2 things. Number 1 is leadership, and number 2 is diversity. Well, what's leadership all about? We hear people say, oh, I'm a leader about this and about that. I know what that means to be a leader in business. First of all, a leader, a lot of people can look at a situation and say, oh, there's a problem. Some people look at the situation and say, there's a problem, I see the solution, I got a solution. But a leader is one who puts together the resources it takes to solve the problem. That's what I'm about, that's what I've been in business all my life. That's not what I know how to do. And secondly, we do need diversity within the delegation. We need political diversity, that's what I'm talking about. We've been electing Democrats, all Democrats, over and over again, and we all know the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. That's it. Thank you.
Before we give a final round of applause to our participating candidates and thank them for being here tonight, I would like to again say thank you to the Southern Maryland Association of Realtors and to AMAT. Facility, and each and every one of you for caring enough to take an evening out of your life. I know many of you are still working you're tired. I can see the eyes out there connected to it, so I knew it was time to bring it to a close. But we've got a lot of great questions that have been answered. I'm sorry we couldn't get to more of them. I know that each one of our candidates has a website. I'm sure you could go to that website and get a little further insight as to what their beliefs and concerns and solutions are. So I would like to personally thank each and every one of you for being here. I'm looking forward to seeing you at the polls. Early voting begins October 25th. And now I ask that you join me in giving a round of applause to our candidates who did take the